Unpopular opinion, this premise of the Alien franchise does not lend itself to sequels, and I'm going to explain exactly why. It has to do with how the first film is structured. And this is why for almost 40 straight years fans of this franchise have been getting extremely excited about a new Alien movie, and then when it arrives they're always like, it's fine, it's got some cool stuff in it, I guess. Here's the problem. Alien came out in 1979, and at the time critics said it was basically a slasher movie in space. Keep in mind, this came out a year after Halloween became an unexpected blockbuster and every studio started getting slasher movies in the pipeline. They're like, this is what the teens want to see. And this seems to have made people think incorrectly that, like a Friday the 13th or a Halloween, that you could just make endless sequels. But the reason those franchises can go on for decades is because, one, they are very inexpensive to make, and two, the fans have very simple expectations for them. Here's a new group of people who are going to get attacked by the slasher, and then it's just fun to see the creative kills. That is not the driving force behind the original Alien film. It is set up as a science fiction mystery. Every single turn in the plot is based on a new revelation about how the alien creatures work and the viewer wanting to know more. The inciting incident is they find a mysterious derelict spaceship and the viewer's like, what's up with that? Then they find it's full of these giant eggs and the viewer's like, what are those? Then a guy gets his face too close to one of the eggs and it opens up and a thing jumps out and attaches to his face. What's that? What's going to happen now? And this is what drives the entire movie. They try to surgically remove it and find out it has acid for blood. And the viewer's like, wow, what's going to happen when they try to fight one of these things? Then the thing falls off of the guy's face and he seems fine and the viewer's like, oh, okay, is it over? But then that thing bursts out of its chest, the little baby alien, and it runs away. Then they find out that it grows up incredibly fast and becomes this apex predator and that it has intelligence and can anticipate their moves. With each stage of this process, we lose more and more members of the cast until there's only one person left facing off against this thing at its full maturity of its life cycle. No, I have not forgotten about aliens. And in fact, there's a thing on TikTok where people will watch the first 10 seconds of a video and immediately go to the comments and start rebutting what they saw in those first 10 seconds and ignore the rest of the video. Right now, there are very silly people making themselves look foolish saying, have you heard of Aliens? One of the greatest films ever made? But this proves my point because James Cameron demonstrates that he knows exactly what made the first film work. So once again, every big plot turn here is based on understanding more about this creature's life cycle. An entire colony of 150 some people has gone dark. What happened to them? Well, let's find out, and we'll bring an army with us because what we know based on the first film, one single alien would be no match for this. Then they find out that all of the colonists are huddled together in one part of the facility. What are they doing there? It's a mystery. Let's go look. And then we find out that there's a hive. For the first time, we realize these aliens are hive creatures. And the first thing we do is we solve a lingering mystery from the first film, which is what lays these eggs? And is the plan really to just have dozens of these eggs and hope some idiot comes and sticks their face over one of them? And this film reveals that no, they lay the eggs and then they grab a bunch of victims and they glue them into this hive to wait there as hosts. And then the climax answers the final question, which is what's laying these eggs? And it's a giant queen that they have to fight. And then the only way to beat them is basically nuke this whole facility, including this hive. But that is really the end of the story. They knew they were going to make a third film just from a financial standpoint, but the initial teasers implied the aliens were coming to Earth because that seemed like the only other thing that could happen. But someone very quickly realized that that doesn't work. The aliens are only scary against a group of people who are isolated. So they wound up going the slasher movie route where it's like, okay, well, all we need to do is get a new interesting group of people together in a new interesting setting and turn the alien loose on them. And again, if you're just there to watch it as a slasher movie, to see some new creative kills and some new cool creature effects, then yeah, it's fine, like a 6 out of 10, whatever. And when they did try to course correct and say, no, you need to keep expanding the lore, the nature of these creatures and where they came from, that again works for some people, but it goes so far outside the bounds of the original premise that it's not even the same franchise anymore. But in general, as a rule, if the initial film in a franchise is based entirely around solving a mystery, and at the end of that film you solve it, generally the only way forward is if you just have the same group of protagonists solving a different mystery. It is telling that when James Cameron made a sequel to The Terminator, he basically just said, well, what if we had to fight a different kind of robot this time? One that can look like anybody and that can mold itself into any object. But the reason he didn't make Terminator 3, 4, 5, and 6 is because he knew that this premise does not lend itself to that. Because once you say, well, they went back in time again to try again, you've ruined the previous films because it renders what they did meaningless. Not every premise lends itself to endless sequels, no matter how much money it makes.